supposedly may mag-i-introduce po, but sabi po sa akin, the speaker will introduce herself. Okay? So ladies and gentlemen, once again, our speaker for differentiated instruction. A big round of applause for our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cholette Tuviera Lecaros, and yes, I was being interviewed by somebody this morning, and I said, kawawa ka naman, magmamadali ka. So ako na lang mag-i-introduce sa sarili ko. So I'm currently Senior Advisor for Prime. It's an OS8 project to improve access of indigenous communities to quality education. Before that, I was with Strive, and I was Senior Advisor for Learning Resource Management. And before that, I was with CEDIP, and I think the portfolio that we handled had to do with learning innovations. I had been a teacher at all levels. I taught middle school, I taught high school, I taught graduate school. I had been a principal, so I know how it is to be both teacher and principal. I had been executive director of the Federation of Accrediting Agencies. So we've done work on private voluntary accreditation. And for the longest time, I was I was director for programs of the Fund for Assistance to Private Education. So, whenever people who hear my name for the first time meet me, they really do not care too much about the 30 years of professional inputs. The kind of question that I usually get is, Tuviera, ano niyo yun sa Itbulaga? And can we get free passes? Okay? I really don't mind that the answer to the question is yes, you can call me and I can get you free passes. It's not rocket science. Okay? So this morning, I'm supposed to be your resource person for differentiating instruction. A few ground rules. This is such a big group. The last time I was here with a group this big was when Vic Ordonez was Undersecretary for Programs and Projects. May he rest in peace. And the Secretary was Lourdes Pisumbing. So that was a long time ago. I remember my talk had to do with accreditation, private voluntary accreditation, although the audience was really from the public sector. So I need a few ground rules. First, one mouth at a time rule. And if I hold the mic, please let me talk. Because the time reserved for this particular presentation is really quite short. Number two, please indulge me by engaging the activities. There are very few. Now, the activities are being suggested precisely because we'd like to find out if it works. So, please do them because you're likely to do them also when you get on board. Okay? When the activity calls for talking with your group, just talk with the group closest to you. You may turn around, you may talk with the people sitting in the same, but do talk to them so that we can get the outputs that we want. For purposes of this morning's work, I need you to be working with paper like this, notebook, ruled or unruled. Okay, so please have that ready because we will do something about note taking. Are there any questions? Okay. So you may raise your hands if you want me to stop at any point in my presentation and you can ask questions. Okay, so what are our objectives? We'd like to be able to define differentiated instruction, review related terms and concepts, identify ways by which instruction can be differentiated, identify instructional practices that can be used to differentiate content, process, and product. I'd like to say at the onset that none of the things that you will see in this presentation is original. Okay, I lay no claim, not even one single thought or theory. The good news about differentiated instruction is that so much has been done about it, so much good work. The bad news is that there's very little good practice locally, and whenever there is good practice, it's not really documented scientifically, so we cannot promote it. Okay? So we are hoping that when teacher trainers such as yourselves, when principals and other instructional leaders such as yourselves get on board, okay? Take to heart the rationale, the justification, the philosophy for why everybody should be involved in differentiated instruction. We'll get it off the ground, there will be better practices, and good practices are eventually going to get shared. Because of the limitations of time, many of the discrete strategies cannot be discussed. But as I have said, there's such a lot of work around this area, especially from ASCD, that you can look up. So, my task this morning is just to give an overview and to point you to some instructional theories. None of them are really groundbreaking anymore because we've known this for a long time now, to which you can refer so that your practice will also be founded on good theories. No? Okay. So, this group, including the one in the balcony, you will take CORNELL notes. I will give instructions about how to do CORNELL notes. This group will take notes, make notes. Okay? And all of us will do anticipation guide. Okay? All of these are metacognitive strategies. These are the kind of strategies that we want our teachers to make their staple in their instructional plan. Okay? They're not always intuitive. You know, learning, getting to it is not always intuitive. Many of our learners have to be taught how to get to it. And the metacognitive strategies that we will try our hands on today are some of those examples. Okay? For those who are going to do CORNELL notes, this is the way to do it. Okay? Any ruled paper, divide into first, divide it one column smaller than the other column. Okay? So the title of the first column is Concepts and Big Ideas. This is where you write what you pick up from the presentation. Okay? So if I talk about differentiated instruction, if I talk about differentiating by content, differentiating by interest, differentiating by learning style, those are the concepts or the big ideas that you will put on this left column. On the bigger column are meanings and connections. So it's the meaning or the definition or the explanation or the interpretation of the concept or the big idea. Connections are your eureka moments, your epiphanies, and you say, you can connect it to something you already know. Okay? Or something that you've learned before. So, your new learnings will either validate what you've learned before or will contradict what you have learned before. That is the reason why you have this at the bottom. You have reflections, lessons learned, enduring understanding, and residual questions. Yung ayaw maalis-alis sa inyong ayaw maalis-alis sa inyong kaisipan. The facilitator and some of the group facilitators can be blue in the face trying to explain, pero hindi ka pa rin kumbinsido. So you jot it down there. So, at the same time that you are listening to our presentation, you are also engaged in monitoring your own understanding. Okay? The more questions you have, that means you're getting engaged with the content. Okay? Because no questions asked is never a safe indicator for the level of understanding. Okay? So this is the note-taking that this group on my left side will use. The other side will use a simple take notes, make notes. In take notes, again, those are the big concepts, the big ideas. And the make notes are your understanding or your interpretations, and again, your connections. But it's simpler, just 2 columns. Okay? So this is what we will use. Now, you're not getting any handout yet, so that you will use these guides for monitoring and understanding. Hindi, excuse ko lang yun kasi hindi ko pa nabigay yung aking presentation. But you will get. I understand that they'll burn a copy of the presentation and then you'll all get a copy. Okay? Now, anticipation guide is an example of what a reading specialist called cognitive strategy. Okay? It helps prepare the students for a new lesson. Okay? So, we will go over the anticipation guide. I'd like you to please get a piece of paper and we will all do this together. Okay. This is the way, okay. This is the way to do an anticipation guide. You can either be preparing to give a lecturate, or you may be introducing a new topic. Any subject area, anticipation guide can be used. Okay? The educational supervisors in the Visayas with whom I work, alam na alam nila to. Anytime I begin a presentation, anticipation guide kaagad yan. Okay? So, there's a series of statements and you as students or learners, you just say whether you agree or not. Okay? Before I make my presentation. Okay? As I go along, you monitor your own understanding of a particular statement and you begin shifting from maybe agreeing to disagreeing or disagreeing to agreeing. Okay? But you monitor because you have a position before I made my input. Part of your learning is to find out why you changed. If you disagreed before and now you agreed with the statement, you'd like to know, ba't nagkaganon? Okay? And for answering the anticipation guide, you do it individually and then you discuss. So if I have about, 5, 6 people discussing their answers, that will be good enough. Okay? But we will first do this individually. Ready? Question number 1. Curricular standards are altered in differentiated instruction to accommodate struggling learners. Curricular standards are altered in differentiated instruction to accommodate struggling learners. Agree or disagree? Hindi, sulat. Sulat lang nyo. Kahit na 1, 2, 3, hanggang 9 lang yan. Tapos monitor nyo kung magpapalit yung inyong ideya later. Okay? Number 2. Backward design. Ginagamit ko ba ito? You may call it by a different name. Kaya nga hindi tinawag na UBD. Tinanong ko lang. Okay? Backward design is incompatible with differentiated instruction. Number 3. Not everything can and should be differentiated. Not everything can and should be differentiated. Number 4. The best way to describe differentiated instruction, or DI, is to say, it's like individualized instruction. Number 5. We can differentiate the knowledge and skills based on learning readiness and profiles of students. In the backward design, where do we find the statements of knowledge and skills? Which stage? Which stage? Where do we find the statement of knowledge and skills in the backward design? Which stage? Which stage? How many stages are there in the UBD design? Nadagdagan na ba? Wala ba? Where do you find the statement of skills? First stage. Okay, number 6. Differentiated instruction translates to more work for the performing students. And the list yan, ha? And the list or token work for those who struggle. Differentiated instruction translates to more work for the performing students, and the list or token work for those who struggle. When do we say token? Basta na lang may magawa. Basta na lang may magawa. Basta na lang may masubmit. Yun yung token. Number 7. All students have the responsibility to learn the required content or subject matter and do the performance task prescribed in the standards. All students have the responsibility to learn the required content or subject matter and do the performance tasks prescribed in the standards. Number 8. Differentiation is primarily about increasing or decreasing the quantity of work expected from high-performing and struggling learners respectively. Basta matalino, dagdagan ng dagdagan. Kung 5 pages dun sa struggling, 25 pages dun sa high-performing. Differentiated instruction na yan. Kasi magkaiba yung number of pages assigned to them. And number 9, assessment for differentiation has to be based on the results of standardized tests, or the interventions may not be appropriate or on target. Okay? So, what will you do? Small groups, huh? Groups of five para manageable. Discuss only those items where there is disagreement. Kasi yung items na pare-pareho kami, nag-a-agree, hindi na natin pag-uusapan, nag-a-agree na pala eh. No? So, only those where there is disagreement. So, in a group of five, 3 say disagree, 2 say agree, that's what you talk about. Okay? And then, monitor your own change of position later. Okay, so we'll do that. Maybe 6 minutes. Please talk to your group and get engaged. Ready? Begin. I will keep scrolling.
Kasama niyo yung crystal ko.